chapter 2, verses 1 to chapter 3, verse 3, and Jude, verses 4 to 18. These verses, if you really look at, it is similar. Relationship between these two passages involves both striking parallels as well as marked differences. It is a lot of things that are parallel and a lot of things that are, and maybe a few things that are different. Both wrote independently, right? That is the first view on this one. Both wrote independently. The post-verbal correspondence between two passages seems to demand some kind of literary relationship. That is the one group says. The second paragraph, both borrowed from a common source. This is the second view. Why Peter and Jude is same in that paragraph? So they say both have taken, or maybe might have read the same source, maybe same book. This is also certainly possible. It takes seriously the closeness of the parallels and avoids the difficult question of who borrowed from whom. The major obstacle with this view is that there is no extant evidence of the existence of the source, nor any reference to it in the church history. We don't know which source they used, so that is a problem. So, second view says Peter and Jude might have read from some book, and that incidents are there in their mind as they were writing their book. That is the second view. Now, the third view says, no, wait a minute. Actually, Apostle Peter borrowed from Jude, right? There is a third group says, there are a number of arguments for the support. For example, all things being equal, it is more likely that the longer of the two epistles would have borrowed from a shorter rather than the reverse. And it is the same argument, like, for example, remember when we learned about the gospel, Matthew borrowed from Mark, right? That was an argument we looked at. So if you don't know, if you have any, maybe you might have not heard, go and look into the Gospels and see the arguments. Of course, we know that Gospel of Mark is actually the Gospel of Peter, because it is Peter's, John Mark was Peter's companion. Of course, worked with him, and therefore, yes, there is an argument. So I say here, so the third view says that yes, most probably if a Jude is shorter and Peter's is longer, Peter might have taken or borrowed from Jude. If Jude used second Peter, it is difficult to explain why he would have borrowed only the material from second chapter and ignored chapter 1 and 3, right? Why? So that is the, if Jude was the borrower, he should have read the entire Peter and wrote it, but that's not what happens. That's not what we see. Jude is just one chapter, not too many verses, few verses. Third, as to the differences in the two accounts, it's more likely that second Peter would have omitted material in Jude that was difficult to understand. Oh, okay, there is something that Peter did not understand, so Peter omitted. All right. For similarly, the fact reference to Apocrypha are found in Jude, but are absent in second Peter is best explained as Peter exercising from Jude's epistle material that was viewed as unorthodox. we have a trouble that is a little more deeper here. There are some references, maybe some idea that are discussed in Peter or in Jude. So not Peter, in Jude. It's found in Apocrypha. So would that be a reason that Peter omitted something from Jude? So that, this is the view. It's more likely that Peter, having softer, less fervent language, toned down, harsher language in Jude than the reverse. So maybe Peter doesn't use harsher language. Jude is using. So Peter wants to tone down his language. That's the reason he omitted something. All right. And the sixth idea from this view, third view, is that the abbreviated statement in 2 Peter chapter 2:11 would be difficult to understand if the readers did not already have the fuller statement in Jude 9. What is that? Let's look at this verse. Let's look at 2 Peter now for a clarity here. 2:11. Can we read 2 Peter 2:11? Anyone?
Whereas angels who are greater in power and might do not bring a reviling accusation against them before the Lord.
All right. Angels who are greater in might and power do not bring a reviling judgment against them before the Lord. How should we understand? Maybe Jude might provide some light. So let's look at Jude now, verse 9. What is this angel? Look at verse 9.
In the very same way, on the strength of their dreams, these ungodly people.
Wait. Are we reading Jude 9?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
In the very same way, on the strength of their dreams, these ungodly people pollute. Okay, this is 8.
Yeah,
but even Angel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself date to condemn him for slander and said, "The Lord rebuke you."
Yeah, so yeah, maybe in Peter's it is more abbreviated, and in Jude it is a little more clear. Same thing, same true parallel statements in 2:17 and Jude 13. So many. This view has a number of proponents today, majority of whom regard 2 Peter as pseudonymous, but they believe that Peter borrowed from Jude, maybe copied from Jude in explaining in chapter 2, those verses you read is exactly what you read in Jude. So that is the argument. So I say here, that some people believe that both wrote independently. Some of the close and verbal corresponding between these two passages seems to demand some kind of literary relationship. Maybe they were trying to argue same point, therefore there is similarity. Second group believe that no, there is literally both of them read a book and have copied, but in or used those ideas in the book in their writing. Therefore, you see similarities. Third view says, wait, no, it is not that they looked at a primary source, but Peter is the one actually copied from Jude. And the fourth view says Jude actually borrowed from Peter. And there are a number of considerations for this position. What is that? By his own admission, Jude wrote under pressure and is more likely to have borrowed material at hand than one not under the same kind of constraint. Maybe, yes, Peter wrote before. Jude has Peter's book or Peter's writing, and therefore maybe Jude borrowed from Peter. Second point in that, Jude shows pattern of borrowing from other sources, which Second Peter does not. Second Peter doesn't. If you read Second Peter, you never think that he has borrowed from somewhere. But if you read Jude, you might be thinking that it looks like Jude is quoting from somewhere, especially Jude 17 and 18. Let's look at Jude 17 and 18. Verse 17 and 18. Look at that where it says, but you, beloved, ought to remember the words that were spoken beforehand by the apostles of our Lord Jesus Christ. So he says, remember the words of our apostles, that they were saying to you, in the last time, there will be mockers following after their own ungodly lust. So apostles were saying there will be mockers in the last time. So who did say that? Let's go to 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 and 4. 3 and 4 says, know this, first of all, in the last days, mockers will come with their mocking, following after their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all continue just as it was from the beginning of creation. So, friend, you see that it looks like maybe, Jude suggests that he is familiar with the Peter's writing. The depiction of evil in Jude is consistently darker than in 2 Peter. So maybe Jude is adding more color, maybe more severe warning than Peter. But provided that Jude knows what Peter wrote. Similarly, 2 Peter warns against evil workers, while Jude describes how to respond to those who have become their victims, right? So maybe a little more clarity Jude provides, whereas Peter simply warns against the evil workers. Number 6, likewise, the warning about false teachers in 2 Peter is essentially predictive, whereas Jude, it is present reality. It is more probable that Jude, who was not an apostle, would have borrowed from an apostle than the opposite. So the fourth view says it may be more better to look at that Peter is not copying from Jude, but Jude is maybe borrowing from Peter because Peter is an apostle, whereas Jude is not. There are at least 5 instances in parallel sections where Jude, although shorter in overall length, appears to give an expansion of the material in 2 Peter. So similarly, Jude's penchant for using triplets appears to be a stylistic reworking of material 2 Peter. So it may be what Jude is doing. Jude is providing more clarity for what Peter explained. So the conclusion, all of the argument listed above do not carry the same weight and each has been vigorously contested. Nevertheless, the position that gives priority to 2 Peter appears to have an advantage and assumed to be the case. So I think point number D, maybe Jude borrowed some idea from Peter and expanded in his writing. That what might have happened.